What is up, everybody? It is the final day of the work week. We've got a big MLB slate for Matt and I to break down, and quite a bit bigger than what we had yesterday, and a lot more options as well, which, kind of comes with there being more games. But we've got Coors Field, we've got high-end pitchers, we got low-end pitchers, kind of running the gamut here. We've got good options. That's also something that's different from yesterday. We only kind of had bad options at pitcher yesterday, Matt. That's what we were limited to. So I don't know if you saw, but one of the top lineups in the main contest on DraftKings yesterday, two relievers. It was like Edwin Diaz and Luke Weaver or something like that.
Yeah, I saw that. I think that was in like the 333. I'm not positive, but either way, take some balls to play lineups like that. I mean, usually it's not going to work out, but that was the type of slate where it just happened to, because clearly you needed Schwarber, who was crazy expensive. And it's funny, I messaged you about Nola after he almost got taken out in the first inning. I mean, he was awful, but he ended up being the second best pitcher on the slate behind only Warren. They were just okay. It was that type of slate. Some guys you just absolutely could not use, and they got shelled, and it was like almost like survival of the fittest type slate.
Yeah, and then obviously Kyle Schwarber must have, what was it, the 25th four-homer game in MLB history. And by the way, all of them just crushed homers. Like it should have counted as 5 if you added up the distance on all those homers. It could have, if you added up the extra distance over the wall, it might as well have been a 5th homer they had in there. So anyway, we've got some more interesting conversations to be had at pitcher today. We also are sponsored here by DraftKings. It is close to the final call for best ball. I'm not going to say the absolute final call, but it's pretty close to it, because the big best ball contest over on DraftKings, it is currently at, let's see, I'll pull this up right now. Yeah, so out of the 880,000 entries to it, 760,000 have already been filled, and it's been filling pretty quick as we get closer to kickoff of the NFL regular season next week. So if you guys want to take advantage of the welcome offer that DraftKings doing for best ball, your first entry, draft one team for $20, get another entry totally for free. Buy one, get one over on DraftKings. So take advantage of that offer. If you guys are planning on playing best ball, you've probably only got a few days until that contest totally fills. So go check that out. So pretty cool to see that best ball has grown as much as it is on DraftKings, because I don't know if you've looked too much at the big prize pool map, but it's $15 million, $2 million to first. And so quite a bit bigger than last year. And then also looks like it's going to fill this year, which didn't last year. So best ball growing over on DraftKings, and love to see that in the DFS space for sure. Just other game modes for us all to be playing. Let's talk about the slate here, Matt. And before we get into some of the individual players, I want to hear from you. What are some of the overarching thoughts you have on this slate, if anything?
So you kind of alluded to it when you said like core slate and all that. Certainly better pitching options than last night, but not necessarily a slate with good pitching options compared to most slates, and a lot of good hitting spots. This is another slate where I think you've got like 5 stacks at least that on any average normal slate would be the top stack on the board. So a lot of good offenses tonight. I think that's the theme of the slate.
So to me, the trickiest part of this entire slate to break down right now is there is some weather risk in the Boston-Pittsburgh game. Now, why does that matter? Paul Skeens is pitching for Pittsburgh. Paul Skeens, for my money, best pitcher in baseball that we have going this year. And if he gets, disrupted in the middle of the start because of rain, you could best believe the Pirates are not putting him back in after any kind of delay. As of right now, I feel better about playing it than not playing it, but it is definitely going to be something to keep an eye on, because that could potentially get a little bit dicey with the Boston-Pittsburgh game. Right now, though, it looks like it should be okay, but it is definitely something to keep an eye on, because there is about a 30% chance of rain over the course of that game. There's also a little bit of a chance of rain in the Colorado Cubs game, although that one I think is not quite as risky as the Pittsburgh-Boston game, especially because for that game, I don't know about you, but I'm not massively interested in the pitchers for that spot. So with that in mind, then it's like, what about the hitters? And the hitters generally tend to be a little bit less risky when it comes to the weather. But we're going to have to keep an eye on that Boston game to make sure that Paul Skeens isn't at risk or anything like that. Also, as we go through the show, I've got some cool announcements to make to you guys about our sales to open up the NFL season, and also some adjustments that we are, or I should say enhancements, not adjustments, that we made to our suite of tools for football season. You guys probably saw some of it. If you watched the NFL strategy show that Lofty and I did this morning, we did like a first look at our initial run of projections. We'll have more on that as we go here. Starting at pitcher, Matt, we've got two really expensive pitchers to be looking at today. One of them I kind of hit on the weather risk on with Paul Skeens. The other one, it is Carlos Rodon on the mound for the New York Yankees. As far as ownership goes today, it's pretty spread out. We only have one pitcher on the entire slate who is north of 16% owned. That's actually Robbie Ray. So on the high end here, where we're looking at guys like Paul Skeens and like Carlos Rodon, Skeens is 15% owned. Rodon is 10% owned. We also have, by the way, I guess we might as well throw him into the mix. Not over 10K, but I'll include him in as well. Shane Bieber looked pretty damn good in his debut with the Blue Jays. Looked really pre-injury Cy Young sort of form. 9 strikeouts against the Marlins. Only 6% ownership going to Bieber. If you're paying up for one pitcher, who's it going to be today? Skeens, Rodon, or Bieber?
I think it's got to be Skeens if you're paying up for one guy. Tough spot, but they're all in well, Rodon's in the best spot of them all, but Rodon's the most overpriced probably. Still unknowns with Bieber. Skeens, I think his price tag is fair. Obviously, it's a tough spot, but he's the best pitcher on the slate. So if I'm spending up, which I don't think you have to, and I don't really want to, especially with the weather concerns, although it does look like it's more likely a late start and play than anything else, it's Skeens for me. How about you?
Yeah, it's got to be Skeens for me as well. I mean, you look at his numbers overall for the year: 2.07 ERA, 2.58 expected ERA, 2.4 FIP. He's got the strikeout rate just under 30%. Here's how I view Paul Skeens. He's so damn good that he's sort of matchup proof. If he shows up with his A stuff,
agree.
He could be facing the 1921 Yankees. Well, I guess that's kind of like the standard for like elite offense, but you kind of think back, it's like if these guys saw 100-mile-per-hour fastball, they'd be shitting their pants and like they would have no chance at all. But the point being is he could be facing an all-star team, and I don't think it matters if his A game is on. He's going to mow everybody down. So if I'm paying up for one guy, it's going to be Skeens, especially when the other options, it's Carlos Rodon, who does have a good matchup against the White Sox, but still not the caliber of pitcher that Paul Skeens is. And then you got Shane Bieber, who has a tough matchup against the Brewers. And despite how good Bieber looked in his first start back against the Marlins, I still have some reservations about wanting to pay all the way up for him.
Especially in a tough matchup. Like if he was either cheaper or in a soft spot, I think you could make a stronger case for Bieber. But Milwaukee's a team you don't really want to pick on. As far as Skeens goes, I'm with you. Like to that point, you were making that even if he was facing an all-star team, like every hitter he faces, he's gonna every time gonna have the advantage, especially if he has his A stuff. To your point, he's the best pitcher on the slate, the top 5 pitcher for sure in baseball. So even in the tough spot, I think he's the clear spend up guy. I do think it speaks volumes that the top pitcher tool is pretty flat all over, except for Skeens, who's got a 5% higher chance of being a top 2 pitcher than anyone else on the slate.
So, by the way, mea culpa, I did make a mistake. I said the 1921 Yankees. It should have been 1927 Yankees. Some people have corrected me in chat on that. Just out of curiosity, I really quickly pulled this up. Matt, would you like to guess what the WRC plus was for the 1927 Yankees as a team?
I don't. I'll just embarrass myself, so tell me.
125. That is outrageously high for an individual team. And that season, the second highest WRC plus, it was the Giants, who then were in New York with a 110 WRC plus. Let's see.
How many teams were in the league then?
I'll have to Google that. I don't exactly know off the top of my head. Let's see. Who leads baseball in WRC plus this year? The 2025 Yankees lead baseball in WRC plus this year at a 118 WRC plus. So you had the 1927 Yankees about 7% better than the current Yankees in terms of offensive output, but still it's been a really good Yankees team this year. But just kind of thought that would be interesting to bring up right there. So yeah, anyway, if I'm looking at somebody, it's going to be Skeens on the high end. The other thing that's really interesting, and we'll talk about this after we go through all the pitchers, is trying to figure out who the cash game guys would be over on DraftKings, particularly because you have a slate like this where usually if I don't have like a clear option of somebody who I really like to go to for cash games, I just kind of let ownership dictate it and say, that's the way to go. You just play the chalkiest pitchers. But we don't even have that today. There's only one pitcher, like I referenced before, who's over 16% owned, and that's Robbie Ray. So you're going to be playing Robbie Ray in cash in all likelihood, and then you're going to be combining him with somebody who's not all that popular. But let's look in that 9K range, which includes Robbie Ray. He's 23% owned. George Kirby is 16% owned. Then you got Freddie Peralta and Blake Snell at a 5 and 9% owned, respectively. What do you make of the chalk going to Robbie Ray today?
I think it's fine. Like, I don't have much glowing to say about it because he's never a guy I want to play like as the highest owned pitcher on the slate, but he's cheaper than he's been basically all season. And he's in a soft spot at home against Baltimore, who's really weak. Their lineup's really weak right now, especially against left-handed pitching when you consider Holiday and Gunnar, probably their two best hitters, both lefties. It's a soft spot for Ray. He's been much more consistent this year. He's cheaper than he's been. I think he ends up higher than what we're projecting, this 23%. So I do think that if there's one pitcher to get off because of ownership, it would be Ray. But I think he's a fine play here. I don't have a strong take about him. He's going to be too highly owned, but it's because there aren't great pitching options on this slate, even though there are guys I prefer over him.
The Sims are showing him as about fairly owned. I do think it'd be a little bit more of a decision point if he was like $1,000 more expensive or something like that. I don't think he's crazy over-owned or under-owned or anything like that. He shows up in 28% of top 150 lineups in the Sims that I favored it out here. About in line with that ownership. He's got a 2.93 ERA, 3.65 expected ERA. The strikeout rate is for sure a little bit down this year, 24.3% compared to 33.3% last year and 28.5% for his career. But he draws what's been a better than what would have been expected matchup against the Orioles coming into the season. And he's also pitching at home in San Francisco, which we know is a very, very hitter-friendly ballpark. And even if you look at some of the underlying numbers for Robbie Ray, and it's like, he's really outperformed his peripheral numbers. He kind of has done that pretty regularly throughout his career, Robbie Ray. Like, he won the Cy Young a few years ago in the American League with a 2.84 ERA, but a 3.63 expected ERA. He was, if my memory serves correct, the only starter ever in baseball history to have a left-on base percentage over 90%. So some of these underlying numbers, has he been lucky this year? Potentially, but maybe he's just better at pitching with runners on base than other pitchers because he has a 78% strand rate for his entire career, which is well above league average, but that's kind of been the status quo for him throughout his career. So, by the way, if you guys have any questions, you are a Stokastic sub, hit me up in Discord and Matt and I could answer those on the show. I've got Discord pulled up here and I am on the lookout for any questions that come in. Also, if you guys haven't done it yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. So if you're looking to pivot off of Robbie Ray, Matt, is there a pitcher in the 9K range who you like more than him for lesser ownership? And obviously anybody you like more than Robbie Ray is going to have lesser ownership because he's the most popular pitcher on the slate.
No, there's not. Although, you know what? There is. Like George Kirby. He's 200 more. They grade out basically the same in the top pitcher tool, and he's like going to be like half his owned, I think, when the slate actually starts. Right now, we're projecting him at 15%, Ray at 23. I think Ray's higher, Kobe's a little bit lower. So let's say it's like 10 to 30. I mean, I don't think Ray beats Kirby, like 3 times, like, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't think it's that big of a discrepancy in how often one beats the other here. So I think Ray looks a little bit better. He's in a softer spot, but Cleveland's lineup is not very good right now. Pretty good pitching weather. The weather has really cooled off all over the country, especially here. So I'm going to say I do like Kirby more than Ray, but mostly I want to spend down at pitcher ideally here. So if I'm not playing Ray, probably looking to spend down.
So does that mean you're looking to play Coors Field or spend up for another offense? Because that would be the primary reason you think to spend down at pitching is to pay up for Coors Field.
Yeah, Coors Field, other offenses too. I mean, we'll get to it, but the Yankees look really good to me also, and they're expensive. So it's not just Coors Field, but yeah, certainly do like the Cubs a lot too.
So I'm on the same page as you, where if I'm pivoting off of Robbie Ray in this price range, I think George Kirby is the guy to get to. If you look at the overall numbers for George Kirby, it would indicate he's having a down season, which to some respects he certainly has in the totality of his season. Was injured to start the year, got a late start, was really, really rusty when he first made his let's see. Yeah. So in May, he had a 7.5 FIP and a 4.59 XFIP and only a 19% strikeout rate. So that really does bring down his overall numbers for the year, especially considering he's made 17 starts because of the late start due to injury. If you look at George Kirby over the course of the season, after he worked off the rust from his first handful of starts, he got right back into form as a top of rotation pitcher. So I don't think the numbers really do justice for the overall season in terms of how good of a pitcher he is. You see this all the time, even with top pitchers. What happens is, if these guys miss the start of the season, it's not just that they miss the start of the season. They also miss spring training a lot of the time too. And then they're just starting so far behind. Even if a guy misses the first month of the season, if they miss spring training, they're kind of like 2.5 months behind other pitchers. So in those kinds of situations, I'll take it a little bit with a grain of salt. I kind of write off those first handful of starts for George Kirby. And then you look at something like August and July for him. He's got a ERA and a FIP sub 3. He's got his strikeout rate at 25%. So overall now, if we're looking post All-Star break it's a 2.86 FIP for George Kirby. And then the other thing too is he's got such a track record of being a top-end starting pitcher, where pretty much since George Kirby broke into the league, which was in 2022? Yeah, so since 2022, almost immediately he was a top of the rotation pitcher. So I think that the overall work we've seen from his career, as well as the last few months, is more indicative of the caliber of pitcher he is than the totality of the season stats, because of how much it kind of gets brought down by the first handful of starts he made when he was first working his way back from injury. So all that said, if I do want to get a little bit different, and I think George Kirby would be the guy to play instead of Robbie Ray. Anything else that stands out to you in the 9K range?
No, my only reason that I see why people, and I get it, are playing Ray over Kirby. Like, Kirby and a lot of these Seattle pitchers are much better at home, and he's on the road here. Ray's at home. So I get it, but ultimately I think Kirby's the better pitcher, the better DFS pitcher than Robbie Ray. So we see that similarly.
Yeah, one other thing that's kind of sneaky with George Kirby that adds upside, and also the case with a handful of Seattle pitchers, like Wu is another example of this, typically works pretty deep into games. Does George Kirby? He has gone at least 6 innings in all but 2 starts since June 20th. And that's something that the same could be said for Brian Wu. They have these pitchers who are just really economical with their pitch counts. And unless it's a start like the one he had against the Mets, where Kirby gave up 7 runs and only went 4 2/3 innings, he's probably getting you 6-7 innings. And that's something that is like a hidden way that you're getting a couple of extra fantasy points that the just numbers themselves won't always reveal. Let's talk about the 8K range, because there is somebody our data really, really likes here in Jonah Tong. He is showing up more than any other pitcher on the entire slate in the Sims. So you got Jonah Tong. He is 18% owned at $8,500. We got Yuri Perez at $8,200, 6% owned. And then Dean Kramer is 6% owned at $8,000. So, Matt, just considering how much our data and the Sims are pushing towards Jonah Tong, I'm most inclined to say that he is the pitcher to pair with Robbie Ray in cash games. But I'm curious, what do you make of Jonah Tong as an option today?
Yeah, I think I didn't even say this earlier, but he's definitely the pitcher to pair with Ray in cash games. Like, he's going to be much higher owned than what we're projecting, in my opinion. Like, it's hard not to like him here. His minor league numbers are impeccable, especially the strikeout stuff. It's a slate without great pitching options. He's affordable, even though he's not cheap. The spot's clean at home against Miami. I mean, there isn't much not to like about him, other than he's going to be making his first ever start, and he's going to be really popular, in my opinion. We're projecting about 20% owned. You know, I'm personally projecting at least 30, if not higher. So that's like my one concern with him. But considering the other options, the fact that our tools like him so much, there's too much to like about him here for me not to think he's the best pitching play on the slate.
One of the top pitching prospects in baseball, Jonah Tong. Also, the Mets are – so the big knock on the Mets heading into the season after they signed Juan Soto was, all right, they've got a really elite offense. They've got Pete Alonso after they re-signed him. They've got Juan Soto. They got Francisco Lindor. but it was what the hell is the pitching rotation going to look like? Because the starting pitching was so weak on paper. And then also for large parts of the season was also an issue for the Mets. But McLean recently got called up. He's looked outstanding. And now you're adding Jonah Tong to the mix as well. All of a sudden, the Mets have a pretty interesting crop of young pitchers that they're adding to the rotation, which I think could really pay dividends heading into the playoffs. Now, what are they going to get out of these young pitchers who have barely any big league experience that are all of a sudden going to be put into these really, really high leverage situations in the postseason? That's hard to say. Right. But the minor league numbers for Jonah Tong this year are impeccable. They're absurdly good. In Double-A, 1.59 ERA, 1.72 expected ERA with a 41% strikeout rate. Crazy, crazy numbers. In the minor leagues, the MILB, 1.43 ERA, 1.69 FIP. So we're looking at all of his minor league numbers overall, his AA, his AAA stuff combined, with a 40.5% strikeout rate. So just crazy stuff for him across AA and AAA. So with that being the case, I think that Jonah Tong, as one of the top pitching prospects in baseball, but also somebody who profiles outstandingly well for DFS purposes, a guy who's had a 40% strikeout rate in the minor leagues. We'll see what ends up happening. You know, jitters, those could occasionally be issues for pitchers making their MLB debut. So, like, I don't want to go crazy and say, like, go play like 60% of Jonah Tong or anything like that. He is my favorite overall pitcher to be rostering on the slate, and I'm very interested to watch him considering what the minor league numbers are, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Like, he's the best pitching play on the slate. So I could see, you know, if you're playing 150, you're not playing 100% of him. But if you're playing 3 lineups, I could see just playing him in all 3. Certainly knowing the inherent risk of, like, it's his first ever start. And that's a much different experience than he's ever had in his life. So you never know how people are going to adjust. That said, he's, you know, been the best pitcher in the minors this season. Yeah, there's just too much to like about him here. There's, especially on a slate without great pitching options, to be frank.
Yeah. Yeah. So Jonah Tong, definitely going to be interested for DFS purposes. And then just generally, like, from watching and liking baseball, I'm interested to see how he ends up looking for today. Also in this price range, we got a question from Sniffs1234. He wants to know, how do you feel about Dean Kramer? Dean Kramer is going to be pitching on the opposite side of Robbie Ray. So he's benefiting from the same park factors. And then also Dean Kramer has, as Sniffs has referenced, we've seen him work deep into games at times this season. Dean Kramer is projected for 6% ownership at 8K against a Giants team that I thought was going to make the playoffs after trading for Rafael Devers, but didn't end up being the case. Somehow, post-trade, the Red Sox started to play better after getting Devers. Giants started to play worse after acquiring Devers. And then Dean Kramer overall for the year, not the highest strikeout rate, but a 4.19 ERA, 3.83 expected ERA. That strikeout rate, once again, a little low at 20.2%, but he can make up for that by being economical and pitching a little bit deeper into games. Are you interested in taking a contrarian shots on Dean Kramer?
I am a little bit interested. I'm interested. I mean, I don't have much else to say. Like, I don't think he's a fantastic play, but he's affordable and he's going to fall through the cracks on this slate. And he's good enough. You know, obviously a ballpark upgrade for him. The Giants have been peskier lately. Like, it's not a bad spot for him. I don't think it's like the cleanest spot on the board, but I don't mind Kramer. I think he's firmly in the mix, if nothing else.
Yeah, I'd say he's playable. Not somebody I'd want to prioritize, but I don't have an issue with him being in a lineup for you or anything like that. Sniffs. Sims, don't love him, but it's not like he's a fade on a slate of this size, showing up in 3% of lineup. So some of you did end up being in the mix. Once again, playable. Wouldn't want to go crazy with them. Let's talk the 7K. The 7K range is really interesting to me, Matt. There's a handful of pitchers that I think we could be considering in the 7K range. I think there's guys to be overweight to. I think there's contrarian options who should be a little bit more popular in what they are. We've got Christian Javier in the 7K range. We got Cade Horton, who has come out of nowhere to now be the betting favorite to win the NL Rookie of the Year, although it is kind of less to do with Cade Horton and more to do with the fact that the rookie crop is extremely poor in the National League. And it's like Collins is only a part-time player for the Brewers now. Baldwin has cooled off a little bit. He's been more of a part-time player lately for the Braves. Since, like, all right, Cade Horton's barely pitched this year for the Cubs, but He's got a pretty good looking ERA, and with like 1.5 wins above replacement, like, is his ERA and on a winning team just going to be enough if other guys are only part-time players down the stretch of the year? I do have a little bit of a betting angle here, which is Cade Horton is pitching in Colorado against the Rockies. There is a possibility, because it is Coors Field, where he could give up a ton of runs. That is something that just happens at times in Coors Field. And by the way, we'll talk about him as a possible DFS option in a second. This is more from a betting angle. Considering he's currently the betting favorite to win the National League Rookie of the Year, Matt, if he starts giving up runs early in this game, and because he also hasn't pitched a ton this year, he's only pitched, how many innings has Horton thrown? Let's see. Horton this year has thrown, just 93 innings with a 2.88 ERA. If this is one of these Coors Field starts where he gives up like 6-7 runs, his ERA is going to go through the roof. And considering the limited amount of innings he's pitched, he like almost instantly could die for Rookie of the Year. Taking some shots on Baldwin and Collins, who are now like plus 200 to win Rookie of the Year, that's a pretty interesting angle to get some good value for Rookie of the Year if you see that Horton starts giving up runs early in this game. So that's a little bit of a betting angle for tonight's slate. But for DFS, what do you like in the 7K range here, Matt? Because I think this is the most interesting price range on the DraftKings slate.
Yeah, so I agree with you. A lot to, I don't know if like is the right word, but a lot to dissect, again, on a slate without good pitching options. So the more you can spend on, the better. A guy that I like usually in DFS, Zebby Matthews, not going to be in play for me here against San Diego. Neither is Lugo. I wish Peyton Toll was in play. I think he still is in play, but he's only been pitching about 60 pitches in his starts in the minors and weather concerns there. So I wish I could play him. I don't think you can. Javier's, I think, the main guy to talk about here. I don't feel great about it, and I think he's another guy where his ownership is going to get steamed, especially in higher dollar stuff. I get it. It's the best strikeout matchup on the board against this Angels team, but I just don't think he certainly hasn't proven anything to be a popular 8K pitcher on a big slate so far this year. So I don't feel good about Javier Chalk, or at least Chalk relative to other pitchers on this slate, even though I get it. So while there are some interesting options in this range, I don't think I'm going to get much. Horton, no thanks at that price. I think the two guys in the Texas athletics game are both really interesting to talk about, even if they don't necessarily project well. They're both very cheap for their upside.
So there are 3 guys that I like in this price range. I actually do like Zebby Matthews as a contrarian option. Only 3% owned. Not somebody playing like single entry or anything like that. But if you're playing 20 plus lineups, like if you're playing 20 lineups and one of them is Zebby Matthews, you're double the field on him. And he's been somebody who's kind of perpetually been low owned for DFS this year. And it's just the strikeout upside he brings to the table. He's not a great real life pitcher. I think there's a handful of guys like this in the big leagues who it's like, oh, this guy isn't really all that good, but he's got a 28.5% strikeout rate. So what could end up happening with a guy like this is, if he could just make it through 5 innings relatively unscathed, he's going to strike out 6-7 hitters. And in that kind of scenario, all of a sudden at his price point, 3% ownership, he becomes interesting. So I think Zebby Matthews is somebody to have like 5 to 10% of, get yourself double the field on him. And then Christian Javier as well, $7,900, got the best strikeout matchup in baseball. Angels against right-hand pitching. They struggle, generate a lot of swing and misses against righties. So I think there's a lot of strikeout upside for Christian Javier. I was pretty surprised to see this early this morning, Matt. Christian Javier strikeout prop opened at 5.5 and plus money on the over. So that was a bet that I placed this morning. And if you guys want more bets from me, you know the deal. Just head on over to tails.bet. Everything I post there, it's totally free. So that's a pretty good reason to check it out. If nothing else, nothing to lose. You just go over there. You can follow me for free, see some of the bets I post. And that was one of the ones I posted this morning. It was Christian Javier over 5.5 strikeouts. I think plus 112 was the number at the time. So yeah, Christian Javier, I think he makes sense. I tend to agree with you, especially in small field stuff. I think he's going to be higher owned than 15%. But with that said, still somebody who I am interested in. I know a lot of people are probably going to want to play Horton because he is pitching against the Rockies, who are wildly, even at home, they are a team that can struggle at times. My preference, though, is to stack against Horton as opposed to play him. he's due for some regression here, Matt. He's got a 2.88 ERA, but a 3.89 expected ERA. And another thing, too, he doesn't profile crazy well for Coors Field. One thing that's really helped him is he's a 274 BABIP, so he's just gotten a lot of good luck on batted balls in play against him. He only has a 20% strikeout rate. He does not get a lot of swing and misses. This could be issues for him in Coors Field. Now, once again, the Rockies are complete dog shit, so it wouldn't be the most surprising thing in the world if Horton ended up making his way around the lineup, navigating, and put up a pretty decent start. But my preference is to stack the Rockies as opposed to roster Horton on it tonight.
Yeah, I'm with that. I don't want any part of Horton here at that price tag with his limited, how they don't let him pitch deep. So I'm good on Horton. I would rather stack Rockies, although I do think there are much better stacks on the board, obviously.
Yeah, to Matt's point, he has made it through 6 innings 3 times the entire season. So not somebody who typically works all that deep into games. Now, one of those starts did happen to occur in his last outing where he made it through 6 innings against the Angels. The start before that, it was only 2 2/3 innings against the Brewers, but he had a blister, had to leave the game early due to that. So, last game he made it through 6 innings. It was the first time he pitched 6 innings since July 26th against the White Sox. And the time he did it before that was July 3rd against the Guardians. And that was it for starts he's been able to. Oh, no, my bad. There was one other one earlier on the season, which was actually at home against the Rockies. So he's done it 4 times this year. But either way, to Matt's point, typically it doesn't work all that deep into games. And not somebody who I'm really looking to play. A guy who pitches to contact in Coors Field, usually not the best recipe for success. Do you have any opinions on Peyton Tolley? Because he is another young pitcher who is showing up a decent amount in the Sims. He's only projected for 8% ownership. He's got this favorable matchup against the Pirates. And then on top of it as well, $7,600, the pitching slate on the low end. It is not particularly deep. And if you're looking to find a way to save some salary and, not play somebody who's crazy popular, maybe get yourself to Coors Field. You got Peyton Tolley, who is not quite the same pitching prospect as what a Jonah Tong is, but he's still one of the better pitching prospects in baseball. And he also is drawing a great matchup. Do you have any strong opinions on him?
Yeah, so a couple things. He would probably be my favorite pitching play on the slate, if not for 2 things. One, I think the weather concern is real here. Like, whether they late start or whether they don't, I think there's real concern of more rain coming in and this game getting washed. So there's that. And then also, he's another guy. Like, he hasn't been throwing much over 60 pitches in his starts. So, like, I don't think you can realistically expect more than 4 innings from him here. And I think 4 would be high. So, again, I think it looks really intriguing on paper, but the deeper you look at it, it's tough to get there.
And a lot of people in chat are bringing up, he does look like a beer league softball player in his 40s. He does not look 22 years old. So that is a common observation I've seen people make online, and it is a definite true one. I'll put some pictures here of Peyton Tolley on screen. So yeah, you got Peyton Tolley here. He looks a little bit younger when he's clean shaven, but yeah, Peyton Tolley. He is not somebody who looks like he is 22 years old at all. Not anything that matters for the slate, but just
right.
Just observation of interest there. And then also wanted to bring up this question as well about Tolley, because we got a couple of super chats here. One is from It's J Metz. Tolley $5,500 on FanDuel. Is he too risky because of the weather? I'm going to do let me do another look at the weather here. Have you ever heard of Google, Matt?
I think I have. I think so. Yeah, it's a good one.
Good old trusty weather source. Let's see what we've got. Weather looks more or less the same as what it did at the top of the show. A little bit of risk associated, but I think the most likely scenario is that pitching should be good for that game. Totally just mispriced on FanDuel. $5,500 is an absurd price point. I think he looks pretty good over on DraftKings at 8% ownership and $7,600. I really like him on FanDuel at $5,500, Matt. You look at Tolley's numbers in the minor leagues. Once again, not quite the same level of prospect as like a Jonah Tong. He's also been finding success, although be it at lower levels of the minor leagues. He's made 3 AAA starts. He's made 6 AA appearances and 11 A-ball appearances. Those numbers overall, 3.04 ERA, 2.76 FIP with a 36.5% strikeout rate. That's all of the numbers combined across the minor league levels that he's been in this year. Still really strong numbers with good strikeout stuff. Not the same as Jonah Tong, but this is a very good prospect who's in a very good matchup. Isn't all that popular. I'm interested in him as a contrarian play.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest issue, he doesn't throw a ton of pitches. So, like, I don't think you can expect a long leash for him here. But, maybe I'm wrong there.
We got another super chat here from Amy. She wants to know who we're liking for tiers. All right, I'll pull up some tier stuff here, Matt. Let's see what we got for tiers. Could we make a Coors Field stack today? All right, so tier 1. Oh, we might be able to. All right, let's try to make a Coors Field stack. Tier 1, you go Kyle Tucker. I like that. Tier 2. So there's no Cubs players in tier 2, but you can still roster some other high-end hitters. I like going to Bobby Witt Jr. against Chris Paddock in tier 2. Tier 3, we could go back to Coors Field with Pete Crow Armstrong. Now, Pete Crow Armstrong had a brutal stretch of hitting that lasted for like a month and a half, but he seems to have sorted out whatever it was that was an issue for him because he's been much better as of late. So tier 3, that is going to go Pete Crow Armstrong for me. Tier 4, let's see, who do we have in tier 4? We've got Michael Busch, so we could continue making a Cub stack with going to Busch in tier 4. Now in tier 5, we do not have anybody from Coors Field to look at from tier 5, but we do have some other pretty good high-end hitters to look at. So I'm going to go to Fernando Tatis in tier 5. And now tier 6, this is going to be the pitchers on the slate. And let's see. All right, so they did not include Paul Skeens in the pitcher tier, but we do have Robbie Ray. So I'm going to say Robbie Ray in tier 6 as your guy to go to. So Amy, hopefully it helps you build out your tiers lineup. It's pretty cool that you can make Coors Field stacks. That's what I recommend you focus on the most overall. Matt, do you want to talk about the punt pitchers or do you want to talk about some of the football offerings this year? I'll let you decide. What do we want to do? Punt pitchers and wrap up pitchers, or we want to talk football a little bit?
I'm just going to say this about the punt pitchers. I think Jeffrey Springs, I know he's at the bottom of the 7K range, is more in play than the tools would show. This Texas lineup without Seager is weak, and he's 7,100 with strikeout upside against an offense I expect to be popular. Below him, I think it's Nestor Cortez, and that's it. And I'm not excited about Cortez, so I don't have much to say here.
Yeah, I don't really love any of the punt pitchers either. Logan Allen does show up a good amount in the Sims at $6,200, but I'd rather go to some of the 7K pitchers that I feel present a little bit more upside, like Peyton Tolley at $7,600 or Christian Javier at $7,900. And even though I am going to like Coors Field when we get there, it's viable to build stacks of Coors Field by playing some of these guys in the 7K range. You don't have to go all the way down to the 6K range to make it work. If you have to punt, then I'll say just kind of based on our data in the Sims, I'll recommend Logan Allen as kind of like, here's what our data is recommending. But I personally don't really love Logan Allen. He lacks some strikeout upside. For NFL, here's what we got for you guys. A few deals, and I'll also let you know about some of the cool offerings that we've added to our tools as well. All right, offers for everybody, Matt. If you guys want to play the Thursday and Friday slates for just $1, you get core access to our Sims for $1. This will cover the Thursday slate and the Friday slate. The package will renew on Saturday, but just $1 for core access. Promo code for that one is opener. Also, the links for all these are down below in the YouTube description box. We tried to set this up in a way, Lofty and I met about this for a while. Try to set up in a way where there's an offer that we thought could be appealing to everybody. So promo code opener, that'll be $1 if you guys just want to check out our NFL tools or just want to play around with them for Showdown. And then also, no matter when you sign up, this is going to be good through Saturday. So if you just want to check out our tools earlier, you could sign up today. You can sign up tomorrow. You can wait until Wednesday. It's going to last through Saturday no matter which day you sign up. So you might as well get in earlier, give you a little bit more opportunity to play around with the tools, see how they work, ask any questions if you have them. Also, promo code football. This is going to get you 30% off any monthly package. So if you know that you're going to be playing DFS with us for the opening stretch of the season, sign up for any NFL package you want and get 30% off with the promo code football. And then also, if you are going to be with us for the entire season, you already know you're going to be using the Stokastic tools for the entire football season. Here's the best way to get a big discount on the entire package. Get 10% off the yearly package, and the yearly is also already discounted compared to the monthly and the weekly packages. And then one other thing as well that I want to say here, Matt, because I wasn't allowed to say this before because we're making sure it was finished before. I think this is a really cool addition to the tools. Our max packages this year, 4 showdowns, you could simulate up to 50,000 lineups for the showdown slate. So that'll be a really good way to have even more lineups built out and then to really optimize for the different dupe situations you see for NFL Showdown. So I think 50,000 lineups for the max package, that is going to be a really, really beneficial way for you guys and myself. I'm really excited to use it to build out even more lineups for NFL Showdown. And where that's also going to be useful is some of those cases where there's like, a punt play you might want to play, but it's only like 0.5% owned. Now you're going to have more lineup options to choose from with some of those low-owned guys. So if you make boost, you have more lineups to choose from. So that's some of the stuff that we have for football this year. We've also made enhancements to the single lineup sims, which is actually already live for baseball as well. So that's some other stuff that we're excited about here. And football content live on the site. Lofty and I did a first look show with the initial projections this morning. And then next week, we're going to have NFL strategy shows every single day other than Monday because it's a holiday and there's no Monday Night Football, and other than Saturday. But Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, there's going to be 2 strategy shows because there's Friday Night Football in addition to the Sim strategy show that we're doing. So, football season. It is finally here, Matt. The summer is winding down. Let's look at FanDuel pitching really quick. And we touched on it briefly because of the super chat we got, but I really like going to Tolley at $5,500 on FanDuel. It's just a broken price point. He should be more expensive on FanDuel.
I agree. He just stands out, even with this question mark surrounding how long he'll go. At that price point, you just play him, in my opinion, especially with expensive bats that look really good here.
By the way, Jake in chat asked in Discord, did we discuss Bieber? Yeah, we did briefly. The feeling Matt and I both had is he only has 1 start under his belt, and he's fairly expensive. Now, he's also in a far more difficult matchup than what he had for his first start as opposed to pitching against the Marlins. He's going to be going up against the Brewers. He looked really good in his first start. I still have some reservations if he's all the way back. I'd rather pay up for Rodon or pay up for Paul Skeens if I was paying up for a pitcher today, as opposed to going to Bieber in this matchup. So that's kind of where I stand on. There's other pitchers I prefer to do. So for FanDuel, Tolley is my overall favorite pitching option to be getting to for the slate. Is there anything else on FanDuel that stands out to you in a different way than the pitchers on DraftKings?
Not really. It's really flat on FanDuel, except for Tolley, who's going to be really highly owned, but for good reason. So not really. Anyone else, you're going to be contrarian. Tong, because of how much we like him, is a guy that's interesting, but ultimately I think you just play Tolley if you're playing a minimal amount of lineups. If you're not, you mix in some of the other guys, with Tong probably being my favorite.
Yeah, my 3 favorite pitchers over on FanDuel, Peyton Tolley because of the broken price point, but then also good prospect with a good matchup. Christian Javier, $7,800, and because of the ownership on Peyton Tolley project for 25% ownership. To Matt's point, the ownership, every other pitcher is single-digit owned. It's pretty flat beyond Tolley. So Christian Javier, like him at $7,800 against the Angels, and also Jonah Tong, 6% owned pitching against the Marlins. Those are my 3 favorite guys to go to on FanDuel, all guys that we were liking on DraftKings as well. Let's talk some stacks. And first thing I want to know is, how are you going to handle Coors Field tonight, Matt? So Coors Field is showing up a decent amount in the Sims, not as much as some other Coors slates. There's some of these spots where Coors Field you'll see show up in like 30% of lineups in the Sims. That's not quite the case for today, but still, we're getting to 10% of them as a 5-man stack, and then 9% of it as a 3-man stack. So overall, the team does have a 15% aggregate ownership, and including the 5- and 3-man stacks, we're just under 20% exposure to them here. What do you want to do with the Cubs as the most popular team against German Marquez and Coors Field? There's not a single other team on the slate more than 6% owned.
Yeah, I mean, I want to play them. They look like by far the best stack, and it's one of those situations where, they're going to be much higher owned than everyone else, but probably still not high enough owned. They're so expensive. As you mentioned, the Sims aren't jamming them as much as other stacks and cores. They're uber pricey, and there's a bunch of other good offenses. So I think their ownership relative to cores and how much better they look than everyone else is going to be held in check. Now, the other side of that is they're going to be like almost triple as owned as any other team on the slate. It's a tough pill to swallow on a big slate like this. So I really see both sides of it. Weather looks like it could be a concern, most likely not. Ultimately, I think they're by far the best stack on the board. I'll leave it at that. How about you?
Yeah, it's going to be the Cubs overall for me. It's not like it's problematic ownership. It's 14%. I guess in smaller field stuff and higher dollar stuff, then we could see them being like 20% owned as a team or something like that. But, maybe not. If simulations aren't jamming them, I think the ownership will be relatively in check. I don't know that it's my favorite stack. I do have some other teams relative to price and ownership that I want to talk about too. But for large field tournaments, it's definitely a team to be a core option are the Cubs. Is that your favorite overall stack?
Yeah, it's my favorite stack for sure.
Okay.
I them and the Yankees, but they do look significantly better than everyone else.
So tell me what it is that you're liking about the Yankees for today.
Well, they're really good. Massive home run upside every time, they're on a slate, and Gomez stinks. He's been getting lucky. The White Sox bullpen stinks. You don't have weather concerns here like you do with the Cubs. I like the Yankees a ton here. They're even more expensive. So their ownership's also going to be kind of held in check. Yeah, I like the Yankees quite a bit. I think they're pretty clearly the second best stack on the board. How do you see it?
Yeah, so for the Yankees in a good matchup against Yandris Gomez, the one thing that is a little bit of a concern is they are super, super pricey as a stack. Let me see if we filter by the Yankees hitters here and who's showing up in the Sims. At least the hitters that we'd most want to roster are pretty pricey for the Yankees. Judge is $6,300. Chisholm is $5,200. You got Cody Bellinger is $5K. Grisham's $4,300. Stanton is $5,300. So, I mean, like it's a relatively cheap stack if you just want to play the shitty guys from the Yankees and go like Volpe, McMahon, Austin Wells, something like that. But the hitters we actually care about are really expensive. So that's where, if I was choosing one stack to spend up for, it would be the Cubs over the Yankees. But to your point, it is a pretty good spot for the Yankees. We have the second highest overall top stack odds. So I do think it is a reasonable team to pay up for. And there's no ownership concerns on any team over the Cubs other than the Cubs at all for today. So definitely think it's a viable stack, but not one I want to go like super crazy with or anything like that. The team that stands out the most to me overall today is going to be the Texas Rangers because their price points are so inexpensive.
They're going to be massively higher owned than we're projecting. I'm just going to put that out there. Every other site, like other projection systems, other like sim tools have them as like by far the highest owned stack on the board with the Cubs. So just going to put that out there.
Yeah, in small field stuff, I could definitely see them being a little bit more popular. It's easily my favorite source of value on the entire slate because you've got for this team, we just talked about the price tags on the Yankees. There's only one hitter in the starting lineup for the Rangers today who's over 4K. That's Wyatt Langford at $4,600. So look at the exposure we're getting in the Sims to these hitters. Ezekiel Duran, 31% owned. Langford, 25% of top lineups. Adolis Garcia, 22%. Josh Young, 21%. Higashioka, 16%. And then Cody Freeman, who's got pretty good MP, second base, third base. He's showing up in 10% of lineups as a value option at $2,600. So this is a really good team to save salary with. I think they make a ton of sense as a secondary stack as well. Like if you're trying to save money after stacking up the Yankees, for instance, I think the Rangers definitely make sense as a secondary stack. But yeah, I like the Rangers a good amount against Jeffrey Springs for today. And then one other stack that I want to bring up as well, Matt, is the Colorado Rockies. Talked about Cade Horton before as being a guy who, on the surface, he has good numbers this year. The underlying numbers are not quite as favorable. He's also pitching in Coors Field. And then this Rockies offense, as dog shit as it is, when they are in Coors Field, they occasionally do put up big scores and wayward numbers. You're getting the Rockies at 3% ownership against a pitcher who's got 17 career starts and has been pitching to contact and is also pitching to a 274 BABIP. That's kind of inflating his numbers. I think this is an interesting spot to go to the Rockies to be contrarian.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm a little bit worried about weather in this game too. So just putting that out there. But the Rockies look like a really good low-owned stack. I wish that Horton was getting more love, but that's the case with a lot of stacks tonight.
Are there any other stacks that are important to you for today?
I think a bunch of stacks look good, as I mentioned. Houston against Anderson, Seattle against Logan Allen. Both sides of the Detroit-Kansas City game have pitchers you want to pick on. So I think it's almost a dealer's choice type of slate. A bunch of good spots here.
Yeah, whenever you get a slate of this size, it's always a little tricky to talk about stacks just because of the fact, like you look at the Sims here, we've got for 5-man stacks, only one team showing up in more than 10% of lineups. That's the Rangers. And you got the Cubs as a 5-man stack showing up in 10% of lineups, the Astros in 10%. And you see there's just a ton of teams that show up like 3 to 8% of lineups or something along those lines. But the other team that is showing up a pretty good amount in the Sims, it is the Houston Astros going against the Angels today. You've got Tyler Anderson on the mound. And, this is also a Houston team that's getting healthy at the right point of the season. They've dealt with, particularly with Yordan Alvarez, injury issues for the entire season. And then also, even since Yordan's come back, they've had, like different guys have had days off here and there. I think the Astros offense is going to be way improved for the rest of the season. And they're still not really priced in a crazy way, especially when you consider the matchup they have against Tyler Anderson. So Tyler Anderson overall for the year, who's also now 35 years old. So this was already a guy who, when he was in his prime, which wasn't really a great prime or anything like that, was not a hard thrower. Like his peak, he was throwing 92 miles per hour back in 2018. Now that he's older, at 35 years old, his average fastball velocity is down to 89 miles per hour this year, Matt. And he doesn't generate any ground. He was never a guy who generated a lot of ground balls. Now he's a 29% ground ball rate, still an above league average home run to fly ball rate, 13.3% with a 4.73 ERA, 4.89 expected ERA. I think this is a good exploitable matchup for the Houston Astros against Tyler Anderson. And then also Tyler Anderson, just his profile pitcher who has above league average home run to fly ball rate, gives up a lot of fly balls, doesn't really get any strikeouts. He's got a 17.9% strikeout rate this year. I think the Astros are another team to be looking at.
Couldn't agree more. Anderson, arguably one of the worst pitchers on this, not arguably, is one of the worst pitchers on the slate stuff-wise, metrics-wise. So, yeah, I totally can get on board with that, like for sure.
Are there any other really low-owned stacks or maybe even potential leverage spots that are of interest to you?
Not really. I don't really think not really. The ownership is so flat. I don't like Boston against Skeens. I think that, I think the Angels against Javier is interesting, but I don't love it, I guess is how I would put it.
Fair enough. Nothing else showing up like super meaningfully in the Sims. Then I also pointed out a couple of the other spots that weren't showing up that I liked, like the Colorado Rockies, for example. We did get a question here from Braden in the Discord channel. And once again, if you sign up for any of the packages we have at Stokastic, including any of our NFL discounted packages, it does get you access to our Discord channel. Braden wants to know, who are some of the value bats that we like at each position? So, yeah, I'm going to look through some of my exposures here and some of the price points. I want to know from you as well, Matt. Do you have any in particular value bats that are standing out to you today?
There are a bunch of expensive offenses, and it's tough to fit them in if you want expensive pitching. So I think value bets are important. Brooks Lee stands out to me as a guy that 3,300 hitting cleanup against Cortez looks good. And honestly, it just kind of depends on who you're stacking. There are value bets to be found. You just got to find them.
Yeah, I mean, like the Rangers really stand out here at second base. You get Ezekiel. He's $2,300. Get Duran at second base at a pretty good price point. If you want to go to somebody who's going to be a little bit lesser owned, there's Michael Massey, who's only $2,100 for the Royals tonight. At third base, it's once again, this is going to be a lot of Rangers hitters. You got Cody Freeman with third base eligibility at just $2,600. At shortstop, I don't know there's any cheap shortstops that like really strongly stand out. I guess it depends what price point you're talking about, but I would say Ezekiel Tovar at $3,900, only 4% owned. Mentioned liking the Rockies a little bit as a contrarian team, so you can make a case there. And then in the outfield, whenever there's a slate of this size, there ends up being a lot of super cheap outfielders that land in starting lineups. So you could consider some of these guys, like Michael Massey also has outfield eligibility. Alexander Canario, he's only $2,600. And then once again, some of the Texas Ranger bats who are slightly more expensive in the outfield, but I mean, Adolis Garcia at 4K against a not very great lefty in Jeffrey Springs, you know, not like a punt option or anything like that, but I think Adolis Garcia in this matchup and in the ballpark that he's in as well should be quite a bit more expensive than 4K. So those are some of my overall favorite value options to be looking at on the slate. Matt, anything else you want to talk about as far as stacks go? If not, you and I could build some lineups together in the single lineup sims.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So you guys will already see here some of the UI changes are now live in the single lineup tool. So one thing that is going to be a little bit different here is we've added the entry manager is here. And then also the way that you build lineups, you press the create lineup to start. And the other thing too, is you can now lock players in, and you could also add randomness to the optimizer. So before, when you press the optimize button, it was just going to give you the lineup that projected for the most fantasy points around those players. Now we have the randomness function, which is going to add a little bit more standard deviation. So when you press complete the lineup, you could, if you want, you can leave it at 0% randomness and it'll just give you the optimal players via our projections. But the other thing you do as well is you could add some randomness. And then what you could do when you add randomness is you could lock in a core of players. Like, Matt, what's the stack really like for today?
We like the Yankees.
All right, so let's go to the Yankees. We could go to the Yankees. We'll build a stack here. We'll go Judge. We'll go Bellinger. We'll go Grisham. I'll put Ben Ryson as well at catcher. And then we'll go Jazz Chisholm as well. So that gives us 5 Yankees: Rice, Chisholm, Judge, Bellinger, Grisham. So here I'll put it on 10% randomness. I'm going to lock all of these hitters in. And then I'm going to press complete this lineup. Oh, I forgot that I only have this game selected, so I have to have all the players available. All right, so now complete the lineup. And you guys will see here that it finished the lineup: George Kirby, Logan Allen, Ezekiel Duran, Josh Young, and Jared Triolo. But let's say you don't like this lineup, you could clear it, but it'll keep the players you have locked in already in this lineup. And then you press complete the lineup again, and it will give you a slightly different player as long as you have randomness set. If you have it on 0% randomness, it's just going to be the same players that are optimized each time. But here's what's cool now. You could save this lineup while having these players locked in, and you could just keep building more lineups around these players. So let's say you wanted to build 20 lineups and you want to build like 3 Yankee stacks. You could build a core of Yankees players, optimize around them, save the lineup, build another lineup. And this would be a cool way to use the single lineup sim to build out a handful of different lineups pretty quickly. And then because the entry managers here, you could just download those lineups with your CSV from DraftKings and then just upload it, or for wherever else you're playing, Yahoo, Owner's Box, FanDuel. So a good way to build lineups with a little bit more differentiation using the single lineup sim. But let's see here what the sim ROI looks like on this lineup that we built out. Pretty solid, 76.4% sim ROI. Let's build one for FanDuel too, Matt. We'll go over to FanDuel. All right, so on FanDuel, let's build a Cub stack because we haven't done a Cub stack, and that's obviously going to be pretty important for us here. Who are your overall favorite hitters to be rostering from the Cubs?
Got to be Bush, Tucker. Bush, Tucker would be the top 2, the 1-2.
Shout out to Jason who left us a super chat. Jason saying, just want to say thank you to the Stokastic team for everything you do and the awesome tools. Jason, thank you for supporting the channel and leaving the super chat. For anybody else who wants to support us, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, considering signing up for any of our NFL packages. That helps keep our shows going. You just sign up for the $1 package that'll cover the Thursday and Friday NFL showdown slates. Just $1. You can check out that package or any of the other NFL deals we talked about earlier in the show. But yeah, just $1 for the NFL core package. You'll get access for Thursday and Friday with the promo code OPENER. But yeah, Jason, thank you for the super chat. Who did you said Michael Bush, and who's the other hitter you said really?
Kyle Tucker. I mean, pretty easy, but.
All right. So you went with Bush and Tucker. I'll add in Ian Happ and Pete Crow Armstrong. And now I'll just put it on 5% randomness. Let's complete the lineup. And no surprise, Tully at pitcher. We got Michael Garcia in the lineup, Josh Young, Shohei Ohtani, and Jeremy Pena as well. Let's run the sim. And then after this, Matt, you and I, we will do our home run picks for today. Let's see how this is looking. There we go. 25% sim ROI. So not like outstanding, but still solid looking lineup. And yeah, I'm never going to be unhappy about a 25% sim ROI. We also got one final question from Discord from Cream. He is asking, is there a way to compare the lineups that you have built in the single lineup tool, or do you have to export them first and then do it? Compare in what way? I could follow up with you in Discord after this, but yeah, kind of interested to ask what you mean by compare them. Like, you just want to go back and forth between them, because what you could do is see here, you are going to have all the lineups you have saved in this right here. It's going to give you all of the metrics when you built it and simmed it out. So the projected fantasy points, the sim ROI, the ownership percentage, how often it won. I think that covers what you're asking, but let me know if you mean something else. Because if you save, say, like 20 lineups, you could go through here and it'll show you these metrics for all of those lineups that you have built out, Cream. So let me know. I'll follow up with you in Discord after the show ends as well. All right, Matt. We built some lineups, went over our favorite pitchers and stacks. Now, time for some home runs. And I want to know from you guys in chat as well. YouTube chat. Who are you picking a homer today? And I'm going to be reading off some of your home run picks from chat as well. But first, Matt, who are you picking to go yard tonight?
I am going to go with a guy a little bit off the board. Give me a Eugenio Suarez.
Ooh, all right. We've got Matt going with Eugenio Suarez for today. For myself, let's see. Neither of us picked Schwarber last night, right?
No.
Yeah, I was going to say, if one of us picked Schwarber, that would count as a win for the next 3 weeks. Let's see. So for myself today, don't want to go Coors Field. That would be cheating. So if we're not going to go Coors Field, you know what? I will go with Trent Grisham at $4,300 today. I do agree with you. This is a pretty good spot for the New York Yankees. Let's see what chat has got as well. From chat, Nicholas Barrett has got Jose Ramirez. Steven Leibowitz is going with Ben Rice. Malukar's got Wyatt Langford. Pierre is going with Yastrzemski. We've got Ken Ratty going with Cody Bellinger. Tom Olson is going with Matt Olson. A little bit of cheating there, considering that game has already started. Has there been any runs scored? No runs scored in the game. So maybe not quite cheating, but Tom Olson staying true to himself and going with Matt Olson. Jason has got Bryce Harper. B Funk has got Dansby Swanson. Obi-Wan is going with Brent Rooker. Sotex has got Blaze Alexander. We've got Jordan Alvarez from Harlock. Henry Davis from Mike Campbell. Jazz Chisholm from Matty Ice. Christian Walker from Trey McKell. We got Soderstrom from Gerbaka Mex. We've got Carlos Correa from Duckman. Bo Naylor from Arcathelza. Harper again there from Jason. We got Pete Alonso from The Real Alabama Jones. Ben Rice from Mr. Klein. We've got Reg Kell going with Jordan Alvarez and Rafael Devers. Mickey Moniak from Mario. Chump Get Distrap is going with Kyle Schwarber. SVT Mike has got Duran for today. Mr. Ace is going with Pete Crow Armstrong and Pete Alonso. Skylar Bernard is going with Brooks Lee. And then finally, we've got a pick of Chump Get Distrap, another home run pick from him in Juan Soto. And then Artful Dodger has got Ben Rice. So guys, thank you very much for watching. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel already if you haven't. And don't forget, Best Ball over on DraftKings. That contest is going to be closing soon. Buy one, get one over at DraftKings. Take advantage of the offer before best ball season ends. It's best ball season, and DraftKings is giving all customers a can't-miss offer. Draft one, get one. Enter a lineup in the $15 million best ball contest for just $20, and you'll score another best ball ticket to play free for a share of $15 million, giving you a second chance to win big. Download the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app now to draft your $20 best ball lineup to play for a share of $15 million and get a second ticket to play free for a share of $15 million. That's 2 chances to win big without ever setting your lineup again. Draft one, get one, only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY at 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. 18 plus in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. Eligibility restrictions do apply and void where prohibited. 1 per customer. Enter the Best Ball $15 million headliner contest by September 4th, 2025 to get 1 bonus entry. $20 entry fee required. Reward expires in 30 days. See terms at DraftKings.com/NFL-best-ball, sponsored by DraftKings.